Hi everyone, let's go ahead and take a look at making a robot using basic shapes in Illustrator. We're going to start off here with Adobe Illustrator and create new. We're going to go ahead and just go ahead and maintain a regular vertical letter size artboard. So it says letter size here. We come over to here. I'm going to change this to vertical, and the rest of the settings, CMYK for printout, high 300 ppi is perfect. Now let's go ahead and we're going to close this. We're going to say create, not close, excuse me, create. There we go. So we're going to say right there we go. They're all set to go. Now when we open this up, the first thing we want to do is certainly put some of the tools away and bring other tools out, like I mentioned before. So I'm going to go up here to the upper right hand side here where it says tracing, and I'm going to go down where it says painting. So I'm going to swap that out and bring out the painting tools. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and bring these in here for you. So we got these up here and take a look at. Now with our tools here, right, we're basically going to go ahead and with our project open here, we want to basically make sure we got certainly our layers. We've got that. We've got our swatches. I'm going to bring this down so I can see both of them simultaneously. Now for the layers itself, we want to create 3 different layers for this project. For this one, we're going to basically, so right here, I'm going to go right here where this is right here. It's a little square with a white cross in it. It is the create new layer icon. So I'm going to click that twice, once, twice. So I have 3 layers you can see here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to layer label each one of those separately. So layer 1, I'm going to double click it and say background. Right, and background, and up here above on layer 2, double click that, and that's going to be my robot. Okay, and then the top layer is going to be a frame that we're going to put on at the very end. But I want to go ahead and label that frame. Okay, now what I'm going to do right now though is I need to go ahead and build things from the bottom up. In Adobe Illustrator, the lowest layer is actually the bottom, or what's furthest away. The top layer is what's closest to the viewer. So I'm going to go ahead and lock the robot layer and the frame layer and just select the background layer. Okay. Now for the background, I need to be able to go and put 2 colors onto this background to sort of create my environment for my robot to live or to be in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use what we call the rule of thirds, and I'm going to establish a ground space and then a sky space. So what I'm going to do is go over here to upper left hand side, and I'm going to select my rectangle tool. I select that right there. Now note that the rectangle basically has 2 types of coloring areas. You have your fill and you have your stroke. Stroke is the outline space. For the fill, I want to go ahead and let's make that a nice, let's make that a dark gray. There we go. Let's give it darker. Really nice dark gray for that. And what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go ahead and keep the stroke at where it's at with black outline. And I click on the rectangle. I now can go ahead and create a shape. So I'm going to go ahead and create like more of probably a rectangle. All right. See how they're right there? Just for example, just to show you that. So simple that is. All right. I'm going to go Command Z. And now I'm going to give them the base. So I'm going to start at the bottom here. I'll go about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom, and I'll go out. Now, if your box gets larger than the actual artboard, well, that's okay. Because when we export this at the very end, we'll tell it to crop anything that goes beyond the edge of the artboard, so it won't be a problem. All right, so that bottom third here is just one rectangle. Now I'm going to go ahead and create the upper area. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on my rectangle tool again, but now I want to click on the fill color and the stroke. I want to turn the stroke off this time. Now I can do that here, or I can go ahead and use my swatch panel here. I'll do this here to go and show you. I'll click on the stroke, and then I'll hit this box right here, this white box with this red diagonal slash. This means none or no color. So I'll click on that. So now I've turned the stroke off on the outline for the sky. So I'm going to do that on the swatch for the sky. I'm going to click back on the solid. But what I want to do is I'm going to pick a base color right now, and that base color I want to be blue. Okay, but what I need to do is I need to go ahead and change that blue because I don't want it to be a full strength. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to here, and anytime we change the color here or up here, we basically have this option right here. This is what basically allows us to open what we call our color picker. And if I double click on that fill, there we are. You'll notice that my color picker window has popped open, and now I can go ahead and change my color. You'll see that I've got a graph here where I can go ahead and take that higher, lower, changing the color that I would like, right? But right now, I'm going to go ahead and go blue now. So you can see here, this is the blue that I originally started with. But as I change this, you'll see very quickly that it augments and changes that color, and there I am just about where I was. So what I can do is this little circle right here, I can also click within this larger square to either tint and add white to the color, or tone and go darker with the color. So it's still the same base color here, but any changes I make here, I can compare and contrast that color to the original source image I began with. So I want to go ahead and make it a little more lighter blue there for a light blue sky. There we are. And I'm going to go ahead and say OK. So I'm going to click OK on there. Now with my rectangle still chosen, I'm going to go ahead and left click and hold the mouse, left click, drag down, and go right down and go right on top of, and just you can crop over a little bit into it if you want to, but just kind of meet it or overlap it a little bit, and then release. And whammo, I've got my background. So I lock that up and I'm good to go. You'll notice that we can see this thin black line right here. This is the outline of the actual artboard itself. So again, when we publish, we're going to hit export, and we do that, we'll make sure to tell it to crop anything that's out and beyond the edge. No problem there. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go back up to my layers panel, and I'm going to go ahead and lock this layer. So I click that and lock it. Now I'm going to go back to the robot layer. Okay, so what I want to do right now is I want to go and start creating my robot shape. But before I want to do that, I want to show you a little fun thing. It's something that's called the Shape Builder tool. And what that allows you to do is, let's go and try this out. I'm going to go ahead and select a shape. Let's go ahead and say, let's just make a nice white with a black outline. You know, shows that. Now what I'm going to do is, with that rectangle, I'm going to go ahead and oops, I have to make sure to unlock my robot layer. I'm going to go ahead and select my rectangle, and I'm going to hold the shift key so that way I keep the proportion locked. So I'm going to hold the shift key and then left click and drag, and I get a perfect square, small or large, right? So I'm good there. But I think I would do now, I think about it, I want to make it a little bit longer. So I'm going to go to the center here with my cursor. But see how my cursor becomes a double arrow? I left click and drag down there. Oops, I select the arrow there. There we go. And drag down to get something longer. So now I've got my base, my body, the torso. So I can go ahead and move this, put that right there, and I'm good to go. But I want to create some fun kind of robot arms, which are kind of like tubing, like bulbous tubing. Let me show you how to do that. If I go back over here to my rectangle tool, we're going to go ahead and use that shape builder tool to make those tubing. If I click on this guy right here, I'm going to click on this and go right down to ellipse. I left clicked and held on. Now I'm going to go ahead and make myself a circle first. So I'm going to hold my shift key, and there is my first circle, right? So I got my first one there. It looks good. What I want to do now is I want to layer it. So I have multiple of those. Now I'm going to go ahead and select it. Now the easiest and fastest way to go ahead and make a copy of something in Illustrator is with the object selected, you want to make sure you have it on the white arrow or direct select tool. And I'm going to move my cursor on top of the object. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold onto the Alt key on my keyboard, hold the Alt key, and then left click and drag. And I made a copy of it. Pulled it right down. Look at that. Now I'm going to make another copy of it. So I'm going to hold the Alt key and drag down again. I'll hit that Alt key again, drag down. You notice how the computer actually automatically installs a center line for me when I drag down? Pretty nice, huh? All right, so I've got one. I got those shapes right there. I think I'm going to move this one down a little bit further, though. That one, yeah, I'll keep it where it's at. Okay, so I've got this as my shape here, but I want to go ahead and I want to group these together so they look like one piece. So here goes. If I go ahead and select all the whole group, I go to this icon right here. It's called the Shape Builder tool. It's two circles overlapping with a triangle, but it's a Shape Builder tool. What I'm going to do with that, and remind you now, these have to be selected ahead of time. Then I click on this. Now, if I move my cursor over these objects, you see how they turn a slight gray color, like a little gridded gray? That's because they're ready to be blended together. So I'm going to go ahead and start off the object, left click and hold the left click with the mouse, and drag a line that goes right through the objects and kind of go through all those little white areas. Once I've done that, I release, Boom, I've got a nice little area there. It's all a little bumpy. Look at that. And I can go ahead and make my outline a little bit heavier. There we go. Pretty nice, huh? So this is part one of my robot. Now I'm going to go ahead and make copies of these so I can have that for my arms. So I'm going to go ahead and take the first one here. I'm going to make that right there and select it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of it. So I'm going to hold that Alt key again and drag down. And there's two there. That's going to be for the left arm. Now I'll select both of them, hold the Alt key, drag a set off to this side for the arm that's going to be over here. All right. Now I need to go ahead and I'm going to make one more for that neck. I like this for the neck. So I'm going to go ahead and stick one and hit the Alt key. I'm going to drag it right there and put it right there on his neck. Now a little tip for you, that you notice how this neck is right here in front. We kind of want to push that back a little bit. What you can do is with that object just selected, I'm going to select just that object, right? Not anything around it. Then I'm going to right click on it and I can go ahead and say arrange, send to back. So that means that I can take an object that's on one layer, not on multiple layers, mind you, but just within the layer, and I can push them forwards and backwards, okay, in that space. So if I send to back, look at that. It fell back, so it's back behind here now. So I just have this nice little bit of tubing coming forward that the robot's head will eventually attach to. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring off the first part of the body here. I've got this, and I'm going to attach it right onto here. What I'm going to do though is I want to rotate a little bit. I think I'm going to hit this, which is my free transform tool. And this guy right here, which is my anchor point. This is your rotation anchor point, and all shapes have them when you select on them, okay? So I'll give you an example. I select over here, I click on this shape right here, then I hit the free transform. There's my little blue dot. Basically, anytime I move that blue dot, anytime I want to rotate it, everything moves off of that dot. So I go back to this one, then I hit that free transform tool. If I take this dot and I move it down to the base here, watch what happens when I go to rotate. It rotates on that point. So now I've got this little guy right here and I'm good to go. So I'm going to go ahead here now and select both of them and drag them right over here. Put them right there and link them right up to this guy. Looking pretty good, I think. Liking it. I'll just use my arrows on my keyboard there to rotate them a little bit. You're going to rotate the whole thing a little. There we are. But again, I have to push it back because I want it to go back in the distance. So I basically, you can see where I got 1, 2. But if I want to meld this and this together, simply just select one, hold the shift key, select the other, and then we go use our friend, the shape builder tool. Click on it, and then left click and drag right through it. Boom. It's all blended together. So I'm good there. Now let's go take this arm and I want to move it over to this side. So I'm going to take this one right here. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate it. But when I do, I want to actually rotate it out. So I want him to be kind of like he's waving. You know, he's got his arm up in the air. That's going to be number 1. And I click off to this one. I'm going to select this one and I'll move it up to here. But I want to rotate that arm a little bit. So again, I'm going to use that free transform tool. So I can go ahead and grab the anchor point right here. That center rotation point, excuse me. Grab this and I can move it out. And there we are. It's got a nice little wave going there. But I certainly need to go ahead and blend these two together so they run together. So I select the whole thing. Grab, again, my shape builder tool. And then draw my line right through those. Boom. They are all matched together. Now I can go use the shift and arrow key on my keyboard to go ahead and move this guy over here. There we go. Kind of like that guy there. But now again, I want to move this object and this object back. So that way they're not interfering with the front of the robot body. So I'm going to click on this one. And I'm going to go and right click and say arrange, send it back. And there it goes. Click on this one. Arrange, send to back. And there we go. So I got both my robots, my robot arms up there. I'm feeling pretty good about this guy. I'll move him down just a hair. There we go. All right, so now what I need to do is, let's go ahead and put a head on this guy. I'm going to use my rounded, my rectangle tool again. And I'm going to click and drag myself a rectangle. I want it to be about the width of the body. And what the nice thing does is that, notice how the program does? It actually drops in these little lines here, little alignment lines. So that looks pretty good. I kind of like that on there. Now this time I'm going to bring that in. Beautiful. And then I'm going to go ahead and lower it down. Nice. There we go.